All right, so we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome, everybody. We're going to put on our little intro and allow people time to come in and share to the network. If these shows resonate with you, please share. We'd appreciate it so we can stay above these algorithms on YouTube and Facebook. How's it going, everybody? We're second show of the day. We're going to sit down with a sister from the Netherlands by the name of Elza. Let me see if I got her. Elza van Swieten. Swieten. I might say that wrong. A little bio on her. About 5 years ago. No, wait a minute. From the age of 21, she's been practicing Raha Yoga meditation at the Brahma Kumaris. About 5 years ago, she hit a deeper level in her inside journey and discovered a lot of hidden shame. Since that time, she's explored this topic in depth. It is the other side of the mask of ego that we wear, where ego, an extreme form of narcissism, is on the outside of the mask, shame is on the inside. They go hand in hand, whereas ego is hard to break because it is a defense mechanism, shame is softer to manage. The only problem is it is hidden. She's created a way to unhide and heal the shame so that the ego can soften, or rather melt. So let's get Elza up here and talk to her a little bit about her experience and what's happened with her, right now, real time, and also about her modality. There you go.
Yes.
Bingo. We
Hello.
have we have liftoff. Hello,
Yes.
hello, Elza. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Todd. I'm
I'm
fine, thanks.
I'm jealous because you're in proximity of Amsterdam, the one place that I know I probably should never go, but I would love to go.
Oh, well, you're welcome to stay at my house. It's
I
50
always figured if I went
minutes.
to Amsterdam, I'd never come out alive. I'd never.
Oh, it's not that bad.
No, I know it's not that bad. I am. No, I'm kidding. So it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming in and honoring us with your presence, sharing space with us. That's quite an interesting modality that you developed out of your inner work. But tell us a little bit. You've been practicing for 21 years the Raha Yoga. Did you have a wake up experience before, during, or afterwards?
Um, Before, um, during, and afterwards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I was 21 and I was in Spain and I was working in a discotheque in a very crowded area. And I felt, is this everything? There must be more. And I sat at the beach and there was a sunset and the sky and the horizon, they were all one color. And I had this very uplifting experience. I think that was my first spiritual experience. And after that, I joined yoga. And from then on, it was a lot of spiritual experiences. After about 15 years, I discovered, I went away because I couldn't go any further. And then I had two children. I met my husband, I had two children, but I also felt I have to go back, I have to go back. And when I went back and started a second round of daily meditation, I discovered that it was very hard for me to establish a relationship. And the yoga we practice is basically about relationships with yourself, with the higher source. It's yoga means path, but it means also connection or a relationship. And I found that was my hurdle. I saw in life that I was not able to establish relationships, not with myself, not with my ex-husband now, not with my children, not on a very deep level. I didn't feel my heart. And I went on, for half a year, I meditated on that topic, to be able to be present in front of somebody and feel vulnerable and feel intimacy, spiritual intimacy. And then all of a sudden, one morning, a lot of shame came out of nowhere. I didn't see it coming. It felt like a very deep tsunami coming out. And I also saw, at that moment, I saw other people around it. So I thought, this is not only my shame, it has to do with a group. So from that day on, I started exploring what is shame. And I called somebody, psychic, to tell me, who is this group of people? What is this? And he told me about my family, my ancestors. So there's a lot of ancestral shame that's going from generation to generation. And we're stuck with it. Many people are stuck with it. And you don't even know it.
Well, that's a good point. And I think the first and foremost is all this stuff that we individually receive and contend with and integrate. It's not just for us. I mean, there is as the individual goes, so goes the collective. So there is a connection. And you're right. I mean, I think there's been plenty of testimony and experiences that have been conveyed to the community that we're definitely not only carrying ancestral trauma, but we're also bringing it into alignment. So we can't underestimate the power of what we're doing. It's reaching far beyond ourselves. But this is something I've my wife is an energy practitioner. She deals with a lot of the same type of things. Didn't go through the yoga path. So I have heard people refer to shame, and externalization and blame and anger and different emotions that are deeply hidden, especially now. There seems to be more and more coming up as the collective awareness has expanded. But you seem to have a particular duty and affinity for shame. So tell us, but I'm just curious too, because I know the word yoga. I've read years ago. I read 3 or 4 different books on it. Can you just tell me, because I know they're all different, can you just tell us what is unique to Raja or Raha yoga? Is there something that's specified for more than the yogas?
Yes, it's not a physical yoga. It's a mental yoga. We meditate with the third eye. So this red dot here. And the first lesson is, I'm a soul. I'm not the body. I'm a soul.
Yes.
Now, nowadays, it's very common to say I'm a soul. 20 years ago, it was not so common. And what we see, what we perceive in the outer world is a reflection of what we as souls are experiencing, and not the other way around.
Yes, exactly.
The second lesson is, I'm a soul, and there's also a divine soul that it's 100% pure, and we make a connection. So the yoga is the connection It's meditation with me, the soul, with the divine soul, the source. You
So
can,
like higher self, source. Yeah.
yes, or God.
Well, yeah, God, yeah. Whatever name we want to give it to him from our
Yes.
futile attempt to describe it as humans, right? And I got to say that this yoga, I always wondered which yoga I should get into if I ever got into one, because I've never been very conventional. But this organization, this energy Soulology, was actually started almost 9 years ago, and that was the original download was I am soul. So we have a hashtag I am soul, and over the years we developed another one, hashtag the human is the hero, because in my own journey I found my soul, like many people, when they first wake up and they're all alone and they're isolated and estranged and they give up everything, including husbands and wives and families and jobs and houses and money and all that stuff. But then I met my wife, who's an energy practitioner like you, and she explained to me that you can have all that information up there, but until you bring it in here, it doesn't really mean anything. So
No.
there's the human is the hero part of it. But yeah, so that sounds like an interesting thing. The other reason I like this Raja Yoga is I don't have to get in all those positions. I can just do it right here.
You can do it in the supermarket. You can do it in the car. You can do it while you're working.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I think that really, now that I think about it, because I spent my first couple of years doing a lot of walking. I chose to go homeless by my own choice, and if I think about what was going on, it was a constant walking meditation, and there was a lot of third eye activity, including apparitions and dimensional experiences. But it was also a time in my life, like a lot of people, they went through a lot of traumas before they kind of woke up, and you start to realize what you said, and that is nothing's happening to you. You're kind of happening to everything, right?
yes, 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 yes.
So you went through an evolution where you were practicing the Raha Yoga, and then the shame came up, and you learned. I love what you said. You said that the what is it? The ego, the narcissistic frequency of the ego is a hard, kind of a hard shell on the outside, and that the shame is a softer thing to work with, but it's hidden. How did you find the shame, and how do you integrate it?
Well, I bought a mask here with me.
Mm,
So when we think of the ego, we think of a mask, right?
yes.
Usually, it's our self-image, and it's also what we, um, yeah, what we put on our face to, huh? We put on an ego mask to show the world. So this is me. This is my job. This is my age. This is my. I'm female. I'm mother. It's all outside. It's body related, and shame is basically the inside of the mask. How I discovered. Let me think. Um, well, we know that what the ego does, it projects, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
I see something, the ego is not able to look inside. So what the ego does, it projects. So what the ego feels ashamed about in itself, it projects on another person.
Yeah.
So if I say I see somebody and I feel irritated, like for example, I don't like bossy people. Now the ego says I'm not bossy. I'm very humble.
Mm,
And
exactly.
that's the image I put on myself because I project my own bossiness on somebody else. So I say, oh, that person is very bossy. What it does, it covers my own bossiness inside because it was shamed. So when you look at shame, where it starts, it's always starting with rejection or humiliation. And usually at a young age, when a child is bossy, and a mother or father or brother comes and said, "Don't be so bossy." What you have to do in order to survive, you can fight, flight, or freeze. But if you're a child, you can't fight because you're too young. You can't fly because you don't have any money or resources to, as a 4-year-old, you can't run away. So what you do is freeze. And what freezing does is it splits yourself in half. It says one part becomes the ego. That's the part that's not the bossy child. And one part, it goes hidden in the closet. So if a child is a bit bossy, which can be very natural, but maybe not in handy for the parents, the bossy part goes in the closet. And then you have a split personality already. And we're not split once, we were split thousands of times. There's one part of me that can't be there and one part of me that has to be there on the outside.
Like a silent witness. Like the
Well,
shame, the hidden, is still there, is what you're saying.
It's still there.
But it's just witnessing and it's not saying anything.
Right. Yes, it's shut up. And this is all because we want to maintain the relationship with the authority figure. So it's a self-defense mechanism, because if we don't have that, they will kill us, for example.
Yeah. Yes, you're talking about this, and I can remember my childhood, and the word that came up was annihilation. Like, you get that humiliation, and then you're like you said, you start projecting, and because the alternative, at least as I'm looking back, was annihilation, was being destroyed, basically.
Yes.
Interesting.
It's to be there or not to be there. It's a life threat. And it's very small parts, of course, but if you have thousands of that, and you're fragmented in thousands of pieces which are hidden in a closet, that's what shame is. Shame is basically a partition or duality. It's a duality between something that I am able to be in the outside, what people like of me, and one part that's not allowed to be there. And what shame does, it sets in the body, so it stays there. So 10 years later or 20 years later, you still have that split feeling of something that's in the closet. It's not allowed there. And the other part is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger, the defense mechanism.
Yeah.
So if I see a bossy person and I'm feeling irritation, my mask becomes, I'm not a bossy person. I'm very humble. I'm very polite. I'm very easygoing. But underneath, there's the bossy person who wants to get out because he wants to heal the two parts.
How do you now, do you still come across situations like in that example where you get you're irritated or uncomfortable by a bossy person, and how do you bring together or integrate or neutralize the ego and bring balance and bring the shame to the surface? How do you integrate them? How do you heal them? How do you align them?
So that's I do workshops with this, and this is the first part. So the first part is there's a split, right? And shame is a split between the outside me and the inside me. The second part is that the thing in the shadow that's humiliated or rejected also hides a bigger power. So we see a bossy person. It means that my bossiness was pushed down somewhere on the road. But maybe by people that are jealous, maybe people that feel threatened by my power. So I had to hide my power inside. And you see the movie Frozen. It's all about shame, the movie Frozen. She has to hide in the room with her powers. And she has to wear gloves. You see the movie?
No.
Oh.
No, I haven't seen it, but I've been looking for one to watch this week. So maybe I'll try that one.
Yeah, you have to.
And so is there a relationship between, like, because I love that metaphor, the girl goes into the room and hides her powers. So
Yes.
is there a relationship between neutralizing or the ego or integrating the shame and the ego? Uh, is there a direct relationship between that and his or her power that hasn't
Yes.
come out? Okay.
Yes. What I found is that your biggest shame is also your biggest power.
Mm,
And so if you know that, you'll start running to find all these hidden
yeah.
parts
Yeah.
because you will get all your power back.
Yeah. So
And
if you feel uncomfortable, if somebody irritates you or pisses you off or makes you angry or whatever, that's actually the doorway to the gold of your superpowers, isn't it?
right, exactly. Because the second step is, so you find, if you find your shame, so let's continue with the bossy person. I see something, somebody says, oh, I don't like authority people, authoritative, right? They're bossy. If you turn it around, what's the opposite of bossy? Well, maybe humble, being humble, or
Hmm.
being a follower. That becomes my mask. So the second part, I do this in workshops with field work. So we, on the floor, we make places and we say, okay, we step into the bossy person, become the bossy person. How does it feel? And you usually see that people start to be frozen. They literally put on fists next to their body and they start to freeze, because somewhere in the memory of the body, being bossy is not how you're supposed to behave.
Right.
So they start to freeze. Then I go back and forth. Okay, become humble. We step to the other side of the room, and how does it feel? Well, they feel free, but also a bit not existing. It's like a big comfort zone, the other side. So the mask is the comfort zone. So we go back and forth, and then I say, okay, step in the bossy side, and how would this bossy person look if it had power? If it was 100% pure, elevated, how would a bossy person look? And then I say, maybe it's a royal king. Maybe you were a king in a past life, or and we play with ideas of how a bossy person would be if it's also with love, huh?
Mm.
Maybe a very loveful king, or a president that's very powerful but also loving. And then you see them melt.
Yeah. So
um,
so essentially you're taking them through a physical exercise because
yes.
and you're taking the polarities,
Mhm.
you're taking the bossy and the humility, and you're having them kind of like step into those parts of themselves and then bring them together to 0 point. Would that be right?
Yes. What happens? What I experienced uh, a lot of times, also with myself. You see them freeze up, and then we go back and forth. And then when we play with words, we just associate. We play with words. How would it be like? And we search for how, where they lost their power, and then all of a sudden something breaks,
Mm,
very subtle. So not that they break and cry, but you see that some kind of light bulb goes on. And then, oh yeah, I had this power, but I lost it.
yeah.
And
And how and now does the original uh experience of when they went into the frozen mode, the bossy came in, in the frozen, and they froze, but when that experience happened in their childhood, is it important to find that spot, find that occurrence when it first happened?
no, but it comes up.
It does.
Yeah, but what it does in the body, it gives a shiver, like,
Mm.
and it can be very subtle, but it's like, Peter Levine.
No.
Oh, he's the Tiger Awakens. He does this work. So what I sometimes play with, if the story comes up from the youth, we play with it and then we finish it. Okay, we say, if you had the power that you have now, how would you react now? So we finish the story that was abruptly ended in their youth because they were pushed down or rejected. And we finish it and we play with the idea that, okay, you have all the power now. How would you react? And we finish the story.
And now, when somebody goes through this process, does it pretty much clear them from that point on? Or like even in your situation, you've been doing this for quite some time. Do you come across a situation where somebody's bossy or authoritative and it kind of irritates you, and do you have to go back into a particular process like this to clear it? Or is it pretty much cleared?
It goes faster and faster and faster. So I did the big chunks. And now it's very subtle. I see somebody and I go back and forth in my mind and choop, 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 and I go up and then thank you. So every irritation of on the outside is a gift to me, because it shows me, because the mask, the ego, it cannot see, it's blind.
Yes,
right?
of course.
But it can see itself in the other person. It's a mirror.
Yes, but it doesn't. But it doesn't recognize itself right away. That takes a little bit of training, doesn't it? You think it's someone else, but it's really you.
Yeah, it's training, but you can train it. I do it a lot because I know there's a treasure hidden.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I wanted to ask you. So, after doing this type of work and serving as a facilitator, what kind of effects, when you go and do this type of work and you zero point and integrate these polarities, what kind of results do you get besides not getting irritated and agitated when you run into a bossy person? But what are some of the other things that you've experienced, or maybe your clients have experienced, that have changed their lives as a result of doing this work?
For me personally, I feel my life is becoming more going in a flow. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I thought I have to be on TV, or I have to do a video or interview. This was before you asked me, or your wife asked me to be interviewed. I bought a webcam, and 2 hours later, your wife asked, do you want to be interviewed? So
wow. I was wondering how we connected with you, but you can't make this shift up, can you?
Right. I told a friend, I buy a camera, I buy a webcam, and 2 hours later, somebody asked me, can you be live on Facebook?
Isn't that amazing? But
this happens like all the time with me. Right. I think about somebody, and then it's so the how do you say it?
Synchronicity.
Right. Thank you.
Or however you want to say it's fine.
It goes faster and faster and faster. Yeah. So and last week I experienced, I was in the now. I was totally in this middle, and I was gone, and also everything was me. It's hard to explain, but I get in this position more and more and more.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get that. And so one of the things that's been happening with people that come on the show like yourself and have conversations like this, it's a lot of people in their own way. There's a lot of different processes and modalities are coming to the realization that the best thing they can do for themselves and the collective is to merge these polarities, is to integrate the polarities and take them to a place where they're both one and the same, I guess. And then as a result, they're starting to have these synchronicities. The flow is occurring. They're able to move through these things faster, exactly what you're saying. But one of the things that's new, I think, is there's somewhat of a challenge, almost a difficulty, in accepting this flowing synchronistic way of life. it's almost like it's too good to be true. Like
Yeah,
you're pinching yourself and saying, "Am I in a dream? Is this really
yeah,
happening? Did I just go
yeah.
by a webcam and an hour later a lady reaches out and says, "Do you want to be on video?" I mean, have you had any difficulty adjusting to the magic that this creates? And if so, how have you learned to be comfortable with it?
No, I'm laughing all day long. I think it's all one big slapstick. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm having so much fun. I just recently moved to a new house, and it's just a huge house, and I'm in this
Well,
house, and it's during the lockdown. I'm moving my stuff, and so
mm,
this whole lockdown, it passes me because I'm occupied with my own stuff, and I'm in my own world. I I don't know. I'm happy. I'm constant. Oh
yeah.
no, not constantly yet, but I feel most of the day I'm happy.
Yeah.
So maybe this is
And
the goal: being happy.
yeah, and this is an interesting real life, real time experience. So this is great. So you're moving during the lockdown. Of course, there's a lot of stuff going on in the lockdown, depending on where you're at, but everybody's pretty much locked down. And then you have the mask and the gloves, and the government says this, and the government says that, and you can't go here, and you can't do that, and and of course all the propaganda. So, in terms of your process, and in terms of what you're experiencing, I would have like two questions. One, how has how has the lockdown and the quarantine and all affected you? Uh, and do you get irritated or uncomfortable by what some of the things that you see, since it's not a person, but it's a thing like
Mhm.
COVID-19 or quarantine or lack of privacy or freedom taken away or no toilet paper at the grocery store or whatever the case is? How do you, I mean, do you apply the same thing that you would to the bossy person? Do you apply that to something, let's say, on the global level or the community level that's not really a person? Do you apply it the same way?
Yes, what I see. Oh, so this whole thing is fear, right? You
Hmm.
can call it COVID, but I think it's fear. And
Yes.
fear is also a split, right? Fear is duality. So I was moving my stuff from one place to the other, and I was very in a meditative state. I just was focusing on the opposite of duality, and this soul space is just one dot, right? It's concentration, focus, and I think the response to this whole fear thing should be, if you're a light worker, you're meditating, focus on peace. And
Mm.
peace is non-duality, right? So we have to do the opposite. So I
Yeah.
don't put energy in it. I observe it. I'm not blinding myself, but I don't feed it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
refuse to feed it.
Yeah.
I I
Yes.
I add peace, because
Yeah.
when people are afraid, they lose their peace, and when you lose your peace, you lose everything.
Yeah. And so, and I think that's a good point too, because, you know, it's it's not just as simple. Yeah, I mean, one person can say, "I'm just going to take this to a frequency of peace." Another person can say, "I'm going to take this to a frequency of peace." But if one person hasn't done the work, that uncomfortableness and irritation and agitation is not going to go away. Or the other person, it's going to, like what you're talking about, it comes, but it goes quicker and goes quicker and quicker. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that maybe after, just from my opinion or the chair I'm sitting in and talking to people for these last few years, maybe the whole idea or the whole place that the universe is trying to put us to is to deal with our own stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to go inside our houses, but also we have to go inside ourselves, to find out, where do I stand? What are my values? Hmm? What
Yeah.
That's what I think is asked from the people. So we have to make a stance for, okay, I stand for peace. Do I stand for peace or something else? Do I stand for love or hate?
Yeah. Yeah. There is no middle ground, is there?
No.
It's yeah. In that, yeah, I get what you're saying. And so, like, in your case, uh you've been doing this for quite some time. Have you found that all the major triggers have kind of left, that you can't really get triggered in a big way anymore, just little ways? Or do you occasionally find something that you didn't know about that
Right.
triggered?
It's more that one because I know there's more. They're just deeper, more hidden. Um, so there's more work to do because if I'm ready, I would leave my body, right? I become
Yeah.
carpeted and
Or you'd
that's
be
my body.
walking on, water. You
Yeah,
know.
I do that, but I sink.
But I think this is important too, because you know, a lot of these, especially these, and I don't think it's, anyone in particular, but particularly these far eastern philosophies and ways of life, which have served a lot of people, and they're very good. There's a lot of different processes, but sometimes they almost seem, as they're explained by people that maybe have studied it or read a book, it's almost like too easy. Like, do this, do that, and everything's fine. You
Well,
know,
the problem is it is easy, but you have to do the work.
that's what I mean.
And
That's
you
what
have
I'm
to make
saying.
effort. So,
Yeah.
as last week somebody said to me, most of the people are, um, it's not a good translation from the Dutch, lazy.
Yeah.
And now people are forced to do the inner work. But it's much better to do it in advance, right?
Yes.
Be prepared, and not when it's the so
Yeah.
when the whole world is in misery, they shout out for God, right?
Mm.
When it's almost too late.
Yeah.
uh,
Well, that's right. It's either by flow or by force, and the flow takes work,
yes,
and the force, you end up got to doing the work too. It's just a lot more painful
yes,
experience.
it's more painful, and
Um, but I like the way that you humanize it. You're not saying, "Oh, I'm, an angel flying up here, and and I can do this and I can do that." You're saying, "This is what I do. I'm still human. I still have things I can't see in myself, and as they come up, then I deal with them. And sometimes they're big things, and I think that really makes for an effective energy practitioner, energy worker, especially now, because the vibration on the earth is one of self-empowerment, and the old methods, I'm okay and you're not, so come to me and I'm going to heal you or teach you, and that never stops. Now I think, people that are doing things like you're doing, and being very human about where you're coming from, teaches people that you're the same as them, and if you can do it, they can do it, and they get empowered, and that's to be applauded.
yes, I practice daily. For me it's a game. I think a lot, and I meditate, and my both children who are both in puberty now, they reflect a lot.
Oh, that's really interesting there.
That's very interesting. I
Yeah.
like this phase because they say, "Okay, mom, we just need you for the food, and for the
Yeah.
rest, just go." um,
Yeah, I know
yeah.
how that goes. I have I helped raise 6 kids, and then I woke up. Like I said, I walked the streets for a couple years, and I got the 2 little ones back, and they were both girls, which, you know those are a little tougher than the boys, and I speak
Oh,
from
really?
experience. Oh, absolutely. But so they were 11 and 12, and we were learning to live together again. Their mother had died, and so there was a lot of trauma, and they were also going into puberty, right? And so, you know, I fought that and fought that and fought that, but at some point I finally allowed that energy to flow, and and they taught me a lot. Have your children taught you a lot?
Oh yes, yes, constantly. Yeah, they give it back, 100% without any packaging material.
Exactly right. It's what you see is what you get, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So, and I'm just curious because of your life experience and the people that come on the show, and everybody's different. Everybody has different experiences. The universe talks to everybody in their own different way. Uh, have you had any type of divine episodes beyond what you talked about earlier? Like, I mean, anything with angelics or galactics or elementals or fairies, or anything coming in? Or are you kind of speaking to one universal voice when you meditate and communicate?
Um, can you repeat the question in another
Do
way?
do, do
Like,
you do
you mean
you have
channeling?
well, do you have communication? I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's communicating with the universe one on one.
Uh-huh.
Some people will see that, will speak to the universe like through an angel or galactic, ETs or deceased relatives
Mm.
or fairies or dragons or whatever. Do you have those types of experiences? I'm just curious. There's no right or wrong answer.
Well, the right yoga we do is communication,
Yeah.
really, with the soul, me, the soul, and the divine soul, and this constant flow of wisdom coming in. And
Yeah.
we are, in right yoga is also a school. We read a letter from God every morning, and
Oh,
we
that's interesting.
yeah, it's three
And
pages
is
of.
it the same letter from every day? Is it the
No,
same?
it's years and years of writing.
But I mean, it's the same letter. When you go in, the letter that's been put together after years and years and years, right?
No. It's every morning a different letter, but
Oh, it's a different
they
letter.
recycle in 20 years. You get the same, but you don't remember the what you heard 20 years ago. And there's very essential points on how to behave in life, essentially, and also um, dogmas and mindsets are debunked. Um, so it's constant um, chewing on this wisdom, what we do,
Hmm.
plus the meditation. So it's a two side. It's knowledge plus yoga.
Wow.
For me personally, what I have had from youth is that I know things before they happen.
Hmm.
Some inner knowing.
Yeah.
Um, but I never explored it. I never used it for. I know I can do it if I practice and I learn this. I become a psychic. I could do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
I could I could go in somebody's house virtually and see what stuff they have. I know I can do this, but I never went there.
Yeah.
And I know things. For example, in the morning, I know that I have 4 o'clock without appointment or something. I meet a person and have a conversation about this and this.
Yeah.
So just
Or you know you're going to be called to go on a program, and you go out and buy a webcam so you'll be ready.
yes,
have
yes.
you have you you know a lot of people have talked about the last few years, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, and how things have changed every year, how information's coming in faster, there's more coincidences, there's more evidence of many different ways of something's happening. So in 2020 in particular, most of the people I've talked to this year have just been absolutely surprised. Even the ones that have been doing this a long time, they said, I knew something was going to happen, but I did not know it was going to be like this. Have you been surprised by what's been going on this year? And I mean, beyond the fear-based programming of COVID-19 and the quarantine and all that stuff. I mean, have you noticed either in yourself, your children, your clients, your practice? Have you noticed anything happening that's noteworthy, that's kind of not like it was before?
Um, well, I did web design for 20 years, so I was behind my computer for a long time, and also very not in shape. And in September, I thought I have to work on my physics condition. So I quit a lot of web design work and started cleaning houses just for the practice and for money. Um, and then in January, February, I thought, okay, this is very good to have a healthy body. Um, for me, I don't feel it comes as a surprise. In March, the head of the organization of the Brahma Kumaris, she left her body. She was 104 years old, and all her life she said, "I don't want an expensive funeral." And in March, a lot of people from all over the globe go to India to follow her classes, and also there's other persons. But she's a very popular figure, right? And the day two after the lockdown in India, she leaves her body, so she passes away, and it's a very simple funeral with just maybe 20, 30 people instead of
Mm.
thousands of thousands. And to me, it was as if she planned this all along. Um, for me personally, I don't feel it's a surprise. It's the end of an era, the dark age, and we're going into a new age. So everything that's false has come to the surface. It has to. Um,
That's right.
so for me, I see it. If I zoom out, I think, okay, this is coming, and it will go away. Um, so if I if people ask what should I do with this situation, I think, okay, zoom out and just take a pause and don't give it too much attention. And just follow the rules and don't be. If you put much energy against it, um, you also give it energy,
Mm-hmm.
and you feed energy. Everything you think about, where your energy goes, you feed it.
Yes.
So
So
my
you're kind of saying don't comply, but don't rebel against it. Again, you
yeah,
somewhere in the middle. Yeah. How are are you in Amsterdam or outside of it?
outside in a
Yeah.
small village.
How has I know that just from friends over the years and just common sense, the Netherlands seems to be, and a lot of the Nordic countries actually, like Sweden and Norway. The people in the society seems to be a little bit more progressive, a little bit more open-minded. Um, it's a little more free-flowing, and I'm just wondering, with the situation that's happened, how are the people? Are they are they pretty stable? Are they angry? Are they continuing to expand? I mean, or none of the above? I mean, can you tell what's going on in the community in the Netherlands? How are the people doing?
I think obviously a lot of people are afraid. I see older people are more scared.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also see is that people look each other in the eyes more.
Yeah.
This it seems to be more contact.
Mm.
Can I help you? Do you need help? People become more friendly. So this is it's two opposites going on. Um,
More polarities, right?
yes.
Isn't that
Um,
strange?
yeah.
I mean, it's like the equation looks the same, like the pattern looks the same. We continue to be faced with these polarities in every single thing we're doing. I guess that's going to continue to happen until we take responsibility right?
Well, you can also turn it around. If we become more non-polar,
Yeah,
maybe on the outside it will become more polar.
yeah,
Because there has to be a balance.
yeah.
But
But
on the end, the non-polar will win, right?
yeah,
It's a force it's more, we connect more and more and more. So the duality will also grow. But it's the outskirts, right?
hmm. Well, and then there's the whole, as within, without, like you were saying at the top of the show, your life reflects your inner life, basically, right? Your inner being is reflected out in front of you. And I guess that's probably been the biggest challenge in this duality is we think we have someone to blame or that should be ashamed. And it's actually just our misunderstanding of how everything works.
Yeah, there's
And
no
it
one to
just,
blame.
right? And it just seems so easy and simple. We'll put it that way, simple, not easy, but it just seems so uh, like with everything that we have to choose and experience from, that the answer is within ourselves doing this work. Because you hear about, go inside, inner work, and it's been through all the sacred texts and for thousands and thousands of years. But when it gets right down to it, that means you've got to do the work. That means you've got to, have those honest conversations and stay humble, I guess, because that's one thing I like about you is you're very humble because a lot of people that have made a lot of progress, they're faced with the challenge of, they're pretty smart and they might have it figured out, which we know how that works.
I always say I'm very humble, just as a joke. I'm so humble. You won't believe how humble I am.
Well, it's always good to have a sense of humor.
There's also
Always.
saying, don't be so humble, you're not that important.
Yeah. Really
um,
cool. So, is there before I want to make sure we don't run out of time, but is there anything that you want to introduce, in terms of the Raha Yoga or your method, and explain to us, or if you want to sing a song or dance or anything like that, it's okay too. But no, is there anything you want to educate people on in terms of the Raha Yoga or your modality?
well, the right yoga lessons are to be followed all over the world, and they're all free of
Mm.
charge.
Wow.
And there's a lot of online stuff going on now, free classes to follow. You
Mm.
can just look up Right Yoga on Facebook. There's a lot of groups and pages with ongoing live classes. The basis is meditation, but also classes on self-respect, self-esteem. How do I deal
Mm.
with this situation in the world? How do I keep my peace? It's all about how do I improve the self.
Yes.
Um, for me personally, I would say don't go into the fear. It will go away. Things will solve. Maybe not miraculously. A lot of people have to do a lot of work. But if you expand into the fear, you lose your own peace, your inner peace.
Yeah.
And if you go there, you also lose your power.
Yeah.
And you need the power to face, you need the power to adjust in common situations in the world. There's a lot of lack of power.
Mm.
And out of lack of power, we project and we
Yeah.
blame others. But there's no one to blame. We're all in the same boat.
Yep. That's right.
There's no one to blame. No one. No one. Not even the president.
Nope. Nobody. Nobody. Not even the cabal or the 1% or the
Yeah, because
Illuminati.
if
It's
you
all
keep
part of us.
yeah if you keep pushing, because I was very rebellious in my youth. I was pushing against everybody, but when you do that, you also feed it energy, so you
Yeah.
keep it in place.
Yeah.
It's like you give it energy so it can it's going to lean against the wall. You become the wall they can lean on.
Yeah.
If you keep your energy with yourself, they will disappear.
And on a last note, do you have any advice for light workers who are working on themselves and expanding and dealing with the same energies everybody else in the whole world's dealing with? Because everybody's feeling it. But for the light worker that has a couple, a teenager or two in their home, do you have any advice for those folks?
Well, as a parent, the only work you have to do is on yourself. You don't have to. The teenagers will adjust to you.
Yeah.
And what I know from teenagers, this from the Rudolf Steiner theory, what he says is the 7 years periods.
Yeah.
So if you have teenagers and you have a hard time with teenagers, it means that they pull on you, or your period from 21 to 28. That's the period when you go out in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to see from you. They want to see from the age 14 to 21, the teenager period. They want to see you, how you stand in the world, like you would at 21 to 28. If you have a very good idea of what you stand for in the world, a teenager can get strength from you.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you stand, teenager will challenge you and challenge you and challenge you until you make a stand for yourself. These are my values.
Yeah. They're kind of like a small version of the world.
Yes.
Until you make a stand, and they're going to keep coming at you. The world's going to keep coming at you until you figure out it. And I love what you said too, because if you do the work yourself, everything around you will match you, or go away in some cases, but a very good point. A lot of people talk about when you heal yourself or bring yourself into a higher perfection or alignment, that you're affecting generations forward and backwards.
Yes,
and I think
what I see, I just, when we went online, I saw light work, and you say, oh, people have to wake up, and people have to wake up. As a light worker, you have to be willing to stand alone.
Yeah.
That's the hero role.
And I'm just going to go on record and say this: anybody who says people need to wake up isn't woke up, because the going back to what you said at the top of the show, and this applies to me and everybody, what I see wrong in them is actually still not fixed in me, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you think that a bunch of people aren't, how do we know, or how do we not know that everybody's not beating at the exact same vibration, but it just doesn't look that way because we can't see it because of our own shadow? We don't know. Just remember, everybody's a god and a goddess. Yeah. There's no exceptions, and nobody's. It's just.
And also, if you say people have to wake up, you wait for them to wake up so you can walk behind them, but you have to walk in front. So you show them how waking up looks like.
Well, that's the good thing about walking alone, and I guess we're all forced to walk alone when you get right down to it, even if you're standing next to 100 people. But the good thing about walking alone is you don't even have to think about whether you're walking in front or behind. You're just walking. So, that judgment goes away. It's a pleasure meeting you. I give all blessings to you and your beautiful children and all the people in your life and your work. And thank you for coming on and sharing space with us today, and being so open with us and so down to earth. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting.
Peace out.